Alright, hello everybody, welcome to Borderlands regular update posted Thursday, October 23rd. Borderlands 4 update notes October 23rd, 2025. Hello Vault Hunters. Can you believe we've already shared more than a month of mayhem together? Borderlands 4. To celebrate, we have an update that includes widespread stability improvements, multiplayer fixes, UI polish, and a suite of quality of life upgrades across visuals, audio, and accessibility. It also addresses various reported issues for Vault Hunters, including major balance tuning, loot system, gear, and achievements, further refining late game mission flow and overall player experience. We will monitor the community closely for feedback and respond after the changes have settled. This measured approach to put your input will provide a consistent and better experience. As a reminder, our primary goal with balance adjustment is to provide you the greatest number of viable builds. To all PC players with NVIDIA GeForce hardware, we highly encourage you to update to the latest driver 581.57 that were released on Tuesday, October 14th, as NVIDIA has addressed a number of GPU crashes. Please restart your game to ensure the updates goes through and prevent connection errors in matchmaking. And encounter any issues, go to the support page. Alright, change list, Horrors of Kairos. We will also be covering that right after reading the updates. So, change list, Horrors of Kairos. Added support for Horrors of Kairos. This free mini event will be live from October 23rd to November 6th. Added Murmur, Legendary Tedior Assault Rifle, and Scully Legendary Order Grenade to rewards for world bosses across Kairos. These special drops will only be available during Horrors of Kairos and delivered to the reward center. These do not change the rates on any other gear for that boss. Read the official announcement article for Horrors of Kairos for more information on the event and the spooky shift code to shoot fear into your enemies. All right, here we go into just a huge list of changes, nerfs, buffs, stability improvements. Crazy. Alright. Progression, loot, and rewards. Reduced specialization respec machine costs from 5,000 to 1,500. Added drops to a certain boss fight that was not dropping loot. PC Ultimate Vault Hunter level 5 rank up mission now correctly increases on Steam. Granted missing cosmetic rewards for players who completed Kairos Speaks with 155 echo logs prior to a previous update. Improved equipment handling when opening rewards while driving. Lost loot machine logic updated to better prioritize higher quality loot in overflow situations. Thank you. There's so many times when I've had a legendary replaced by some random weapon and it was crazy. Lost loot machine SDU upgrades now properly expand slots in multiplayer sessions. Address a reported issue with lost loot machine that could cause duplications in multiplayer. Loot enemies now drop more cash. Golden chests can now consistently be opened after joining a session and redeeming shift keys. My friend was actually having issues with that when he was joining on mine and my other friend's session. Reward center behavior adjusted after claiming Gilded Glory Pack to prevent it from losing function. Break free reward bundle redemption standardized now correctly apply account wide as intended. Adjusted unlock conditions so Rift incompatible achievement now correctly completes for all players in multiplayer. Cut that out achievement now unlocks when viewing the board from a further distance. Level based progression updated so Crimson Ring achievement unlocks at character player level 10 as designed. Challenge tracking updated so Jacob's throwing knives no longer count as gun kills. Ensured that bobblehead collectibles in Pester's Grotto and Motherboard Node were accessible. Discovered locations now stay discovered, returning to single player after multiplayer. Thank you. Oh my god. My Vex was just so far behind because of that. My entire map was grayed out even though I was close to the end of the game running it through with my friends. Crazy. Various fast travel stations have been adjusted to unlock when they're intended to, including concerns seen in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. Perfect. Vault key animations now correctly play correctly during Echo 4 sequences. Echo log pickup unpaid tab now counts properly. Amara's escort to core objective now consistently advances when replayed. Improved various instances of mission waypoints not showing up accurately. Absolute crazy stability changes and perfect quality of life changes. Great. It's awesome to see all of this. Gameplay and missions. Maurice's Black Market vending machine is available to be interacted reliably in multiplayer. Legendary vending machine no longer closes unexpectedly during the end of life. Made general improvements to prevent enemies from getting stuck when spawning and address various reported spawn point issues. Address bounties Beatloaf, Grip, and Shagger culture not reliably spawning. Address reported instances of terminus range vault enemies getting stuck on ledges during encounters. Address a reported issue in co-op during Splash Zone boss fight, leading to more consistent behavior. The Howl capture station no longer reactivates after safe house capture. One fell swoop has been updated to prevent players from being left floating in the air. Bio bulkhead now shows the correct elemental icon, and movement has been smoothed to eliminate jitter after certain attacks. Warden Scathe no longer clips through arena walls in his boss fight. Improved echolocation guidance across several missions. Patched collision gaps, holes, clipping, and invisible walls. Corrected order drop pod events to consistently reach that ground and no longer appear stuck in the air. NPCs should no longer cause players or vehicles to get stuck when the player runs them over. Pangolin enemies can now be damaged by grenades while in ball mode. Chainmaster trait tethers to all allies in range when multiple enemies have the ability. Mangler enemies no longer desync in their position when dodging in multiplayer. Very interesting changes. Well, interesting in a good way, right? All right, and here we go. Vault Hunter changes. We have some pretty good ones, pretty crazy ones. Absolutely insane. Harlow didn't get touched too much, a little bit of nerfs here and there, but definitely focus more on the consistency side of things. Just go ahead and read it. Vault Hunter changes. Harlow the Gravitar. Address some Gravitar builds that are reportedly caused performance slowdowns. They should no longer prevent UI elements from updating or fight for your life sequences from completing. Gravitar passives and augments bonuses to gun damage now correctly apply to Ripper heavy weapon barrels and the Ripper legendary heavy weapon steamer. Entanglement and interactions also function as designed. Gravitar class mods have been adjusted to no longer roll +5 pencils down and push his passive past their intended cap. Creative burst. Balance adjustments. Neutron capture now converts all gun damage into radiation and now only applies to gunshots and not all instances of gun damage. Dev note. Neutron capture is one of the best scalers in the entire game, but during testing we found that this was erroneously applying to all instances of gun damage and was able to scale in unanticipated ways as a result. This new change will still see Neutron capture being one of the best, if not the best, damage scalers in the game, but the power level will be much more in line with our expectations. Additionally, since all damage from the gun is converted into radiation, it should have more scaling vectors for clever build crafters and allow for meaningful boost from gun damage. Very interesting. I can't remember if I use that one because I don't remember the names of all the perks, but I feel like I do. I'll go ahead and double check all of these in game, and during a stream we'll go ahead and test like some of these builds out from previously how Harlow felt before. Cosmic Brilliance passive. Flux generator plus annihilation interaction, so updated spawn grenades now scale properly with character level. Perfect. Alright, Amon the Forge Knights. From what I was reading before, he got a couple of nerfs, but they were more so nerfs in an unintended way. For now, I think all he got were buffs. Let's see. Amon the Forge Knight. Shield visuals adjusted for improved clarity in combat situations. Trait. Forge skill. Adjusted interaction with the Forge Master class mod, so Forge skill now respects its cooldown in multiplayer. Onslaughter Calamity. Camera behavior stabilized now, combining Onslaughter with Order Legendary Pistol, Noisy Cricket. Attack frequency of Rocket Punch is now consistent in multiplayer. This is what we were running into with my friend, where his Rocket Punch was not doing a consistent speed, and he was picking up on that between how powerful he felt in single player versus multiplayer. So it seems like it was a bug. That's what we were thinking it was. That was such a strange issue, but I'm glad they went ahead and addressed it. That's awesome. I didn't see anybody else talking about it. Crazy. Balance adjustment. There is only red duration. Restored no longer increases per point invested. It and is now 4 seconds for all ranks. Dev note. There is only red was always meant to have a huge damage scaling potential, but was always meant to be hard to maintain. We didn't want to nerf this passive's power, but we're making the effect harder to maintain. Interesting. I can get behind that. I can understand that, to where you don't want it to be up all the time because it is such a huge boost in damage. So you want it to be maintained, so you have to be doing something proactively in order to maintain it. That makes sense. Scourge Vengeance. Scorch Kairos passive now displays consistent magazine size values for ordnance gadgets. Forge Wave no longer fires unintentionally during Glacial Rapture. Projectiles no longer get stuck in the air when Forge Master Firewall is active during the Fortress Indomita boss fight. Thank you. My brother was complaining about that one specifically. Blackout. Shock damage now properly scales with points invested. Blackout is now 15% per point, down from 21 per point. Dev note. After fixing the scaling of dot damage over time, we found that Blackout was overperforming a bit, so we gave it a slight readjustment. This will be an overall buff, but now dot properly scales. Okay, so it is a buff, but it's more the damage over time that went and adjusted. Okay. Perfectly fine. That's understandable. Crucible, cybernetics. Visuals corrected so Force Knight Forge Axe no longer disappears when activating Crucible at the same time as throwing the with double edge. Corrected animation of Crucible while climbing. Raging Inferno incendiary damage now properly scales with points invested. Moving on, Vex the Siren. Challenge, me, myself, and I. Now tracks correctly in multiplayer independent of clone duration on other players. Dead Ringer, the Forge Seal. Spectre's copied weapon now displays proper visuals when firing with a Malawan element switcher. Incarnate Vexcalation. Bleed from Bloodletter has been updated so it no longer recursively triggers itself, preventing unintended damage loops. Oh, there it goes. There goes the most OP Vex build in the game. Bloodletter was looping damage and essentially scaling an infinite amount. Absolutely wild. You were just able to delete every single boss in the game with just the combination of the knife and Bloodletter. Wild. Base Familiar. Here comes Trouble. Double Trouble illusion damage now multiplayer is now 75 up from 50%. Double Trouble illusion's duration is now 8 seconds up from 5 seconds. Apex Beaks damage dealt increased. Did they mean to do that? Damage dealt increase. Oh, I see. Okay. Apex Beast damage dealt increased to 15% from 10% per stack of unsealed. Wow, that was a sentence. All right. Rafa looks like he didn't get too much. Rafa free grenade from Philanthropo class mod now deals an appropriate damage when no grenade is equipped. People person skill tree. Action skills, Apophis Lance. Apophis Lance changed to penalize gun accuracy instead of gun handling, resulting in projectile speed being unaffected. Is that what gun handling does? Why does gun handling affect projectile speed? I have to test that, because so far I thought gun handling was just, as far as I know, it's swapping weapons, and I believe weapon sway, if I'm not mistaken. But it affects projectile speed to penalize gun accuracy instead of gun handling, resulting in projectile speed being unaffected. Why the hell would it be projectile speed? What? Anyways, Apophis Lance now benefits from cooldown reduction effects. Gear. Oh, I already know what gear was affected. And in all the, so far, I have 100 hours in the game. In the 100 hours I have played this game, I never once got this knife to drop. This knife was so incredibly rare, and that is me dedicating several hours of playing to trying to get this knife in particular, and I did not get it. Sucks that I couldn't play with it, but oh well, there are plenty of videos showing how OP and crazy this thing was. But in the meantime, gear. Skills that boosted gun handling now properly increase projectile speed. So they're tying projectile speed to gun handling. That is so damn interesting. Why? Oh well. Address reports that swapping weapons with freeloader enhancement on an order weapon with a Ripper magazine would cause all weapons to not consume the accurate amount of ammo. Okay, hopefully that is finally fixing the issue that I keep having of my weapons not shooting. Maybe, I don't know if that's the exact thing, but they said they fixed it in a previous update. It is not fixed. At least back then. I haven't used a weapon that has been an issue with that so far. I now use different types of weapons, so I don't run into that, but I'll see. I think I might still have one in my backpack that tends to glitch out like that, and I'll do some testing on my own. Health restoration from legendary rep kit Adrenaline Pump now works correctly when combined with the legendary shield Guardian Angel. Reduce critical chance on Jacob's crit knife to 30%. Dev note, it had to happen. You know it was gonna happen. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, the knife literally cause your damage to hit crit 100% of the time, regardless of what type of damage it was. So it was able to stack with Bloodletter, and Bloodletter kept looping, and all of that was hitting crit damage. Either way, it was mainly Vex, it was mainly Harlow being able to take advantage of the Jacob's crit knife. It has now been nerfed down to 30%, so 30% of the time, I'm guessing Dot will be able to hit crit 30% of the time. So either way, had to happen. Jacob's legendary pistol, San Sabas Songbird, no longer stacks infinitely when swapping weapons. Using a Jacob shotgun with torque sticky projectiles and the knife launcher underbarrel no longer deals knife damage after swapping firing modes. Interesting. I don't know if I've ever ran into that bug specifically, but that's kind of a weird one. Jacob weapon parts updated so ricochet effects only trigger from intended damage sources. Oh, that might have nerfed my build. So I was triggering ricochet from other things? How does that make sense? Jacob's weapon parts updated so ricochet only trigger from intended damage sources. I guess I'll figure it out. If I feel like I'm not wiping the battlefield as quickly, then it definitely did affect me. Ripper, legendary shotgun, golden god, overheating effect now clears correctly when switching weapons. Corrective behavior, Malawan, legendary SMG. Oh my god. So the first 3 shots no longer consume ammo without dealing damage during the continuous fire. Malawan, legendary heavy gun, gamma void, corrected to apply proper increased radiation damage to enemies inside singularity. Weapons with COV magazines now function properly if a repair animation is interrupted with a rep kit in multiplayer. Was that what I was running into? I have to check. We'll see. Daedalus, legendary SMG, frangible, removes from chest loot tables. Daedalus, legendary AR, first impression, reduced the critical damage multiplier. Recoil behavior improved while charging and firing order ARs, and torque heavy with triple barrel parts with gun handling passives. That is a sentence and a half. Vlada, flamethrower underbarrel, no longer deals infinite damage or bypasses bio armor. It was doing that? I was sleeping on that? God damn. Infinite damage is insane. Grenades with sprint augment and divider payload now have intended 3 additional bounces when paired. Gadgets no longer reset to maximum after gaining second wind. Healing orbs spawned from legendary rep kit kill spring no longer heal enemies. Interesting. Order, legendary cinder shelly, combat voice lines now trigger at the intended frequency, less often to be less distracting. TDR underbarrel names now match correctly across item cards and ammo widgets. Malawan, lingering payload and splat pack augment projectiles no longer possessed when Malawan, lingering payload and splat attack augment projectiles no longer persist when thrown at vending machines. Very interesting. Gear balance, assault rifle, star helic fire rate increased by 33%, Bonnie and Clyde base damage increased by 40%, pair of thieves bonus damage granted increased from 150 to 100%, or from 100%. Bugbear base damage increased by 40%, rotary gun max damage increased to 200% from 100%. Rowan's charge base fire rate increased by 100%, Rowan's charge recoil reduced slightly. Lucian's flank base damage increased by 50%. Lucian's, I don't know if it's Lucian or Lucian, but I'm just gonna say Lucian's. Lucian's flank recoil reduced slightly. Aegon's dream base damage increased by 35%. Heavy weapon ordnance, gamma void damage increased by 450%. Singularity duration increased from 6 seconds to 10 seconds. Radiation damage amp increased from 50% to 40%. Gamma void cooldown increased by 100%. Ravenfire base damage increased by 25%. An increase, 450% increase. Oh my god! Class mods. Dev note. Class mods relating to melee damage, action skill, and specific one-off stats on legendaries have been buffed to make them desirable. All class mods across the board. Melee damage, action skill damage on level 50 class mods has increased to 60%. Skill damage on level 50 class mods have been increased to 45%. Siren class mods, avatar attunement skill duration on level 50 class mods has increased to 45%. Kindred Spirit's command skill cooldown rate on level 50 class mods has increased to 45%. Fortnite class mods, Blacksmith's Forge Drone duration on level 50 class mod have been increased to 45%. Blacksmith's legendary effect now increases all Forge Drone damage by 20% per active Forge Drone. Viking detonation damage on level 50 class mod have been increased to 60%. Forge Master's Forge skill damage on level 50 class mod has increased to 60%. Elementalist's legendary effect now increases all damage dealt by Amon by 2% per affinity stat. Gravatar class mods. Biorobot hazard damage on level 50 class mod increased to 60%. Skeptic stasis damage on level 50 class mods have increased to 60%. Other gear that are related to melee and action skill damage have increased effectiveness. We want these builds to be pushed up a bit, but wanted to distribute the power among the various pieces of gear to make them more desirable. In order to make us use melee more, add melee weapons. Food for thought, Wonderlands, food for thought, Wonderlands. Anyways, rep kits, hard hitter now grants 50% melee damage dealt up from 40%. Firmware, real big fist now grants 25% melee damage at rank 1 and rank 2 up from 15-25. So we are starting from 25 base now instead of 15. Got it. Action skill, action fist now grants 25% melee damage at rank 1 up from 15, so same thing. Action fist now grants 30% action skill damage at rank 2 up from 30. Action fist now grants grants 30% action skill damage on melee kill, up from 25%. Very cool. Very interesting. Shield. Boxer armor shields now grant 20, 30, and 50% melee damage depending on parts rolled, up from 15, 25, and 40. So it's just to make it feel more consistent and stronger straight from the get-go, instead of needing to feel like you need to set up and then you feel strong. Okay. Berserker energy shields now grant 20%, 30%, 50% melee damage depending on parts rolled, up from 20, 27.5, and 35. That is such a weird collection of numbers. But hey, I'm not against making melee damage more prolific in the game. I know Amon is struggling a little bit because melees don't feel super powerful in this game. The one way I would say that in order to make melees feel a lot more viable is if we had more options to play around with our melees, not just have like a single skill that augments it. I would love if they put some sort of melee weapon or something in the game to feel melees, so melees feel more personal, and so melees feel like they are a part of the build instead of just something that you can use in the meantime. Specializations. Groundbreaker. Groundbreaker now only stores gun, action skill, and ordnance damage. Dev note: Groundbreaker was causing recursive loops that could lead to infinite damage by storing bonus damage across the board. We still want the skill to be effective, but it should not be able to scale infinite. We'll be monitoring melee builds after this change to make sure they are meeting expectations, and will further adjust if necessary. This ultimately had to be fixed so we can establish a baseline before we investigate further buffs and changes. Alright, Groundbreaker. Yeah, I was noticing that just after I unlocked it, like all of a sudden my damage was just so much higher than I thought it would be, but I thought that's because like that's just how powerful this skill was. Turns out, seems like it was a bug, which understandable. Glad they fixed it, because the game needs to be like, you still need to feel powerful, but you need to feel powerful within the confines that they give you. That's the point of a game, right? So necessary change: UI, UX, and text. Sorting settings in menus now persist when switching tabs or leaving the menu. Perfect. Toggle junk behavior now corrected to target the desired item in bank, menus, and backpack. Weapon wheel no longer sticks when open near gun vending machines. Interesting. Press hold input now cancels correctly without triggering unintended actions. Apply settings. Prompt only appears when changes are made. Restored full screen resolution controls and switching behavior. Thank you. This game tweaks so hard if you have this game in full screen and try to like tab out. It just like, it goes whoop, 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 like 3-4 times before it finally lets you start controlling the damn thing. Weekly activities now populate after campaign completion. Maurice's Black Market vending machine timer updates show correct cooldown. Firmware 3-piece bonus Ahoy Oscar Mike Deadeye.io now show cooldown icons. Deadeye tier 3 Deadeye tier 3 stacks now appear in the passive bar. Boss bar spacing corrected when combat radar is active. Transfer machine naming has been standardized across the game. Travel notification now displays the initializing player name. Echo location path remains readable over time. Made improvements to pathfinding. Updated various UI visuals and icon for alignment, consistency, and clarity. Updated localization, various text description across the game. Standardized updated terminology across gear, menus, customization, and manufacturers. Visuals. Updated various character and NPC animations. Corrected various reported instances of VFX not rendering properly. Grapple vault points now show proper models instead of placeholders. Reduce reported instances of visual pops at cinematic starts. Audio and VO now remain active when returning to menus after level training in multiplayer. Adjusted audio mix for improved balance across gameplay and VO. SFX volume slider now correctly applies to high dynamic range value sounds. Addressed several reported instances of VO not playing as intended across multiple missions and scenarios. Vault Hunter battle voiceover frequency has been turned down so lines repeat less often. Come on, you gotta have to give them the Moe's treatment. Why'd you do that? Missing pain reaction audio restored for several named NPCs. Improved various subtitle timing and text. Background music now continues as expected during Idolator Soul boss fight. Unique audio cue restored for Phosphine shiny gear spawns. Very cool. Alright, close to the end here. Settings and accessibility. Personal crossplay settings can now be adjusted immediately after switching party privacy from local to personal crossplay settings can now be adjusted immediately after switching party privacy from local only to public in session settings. Air dash is now fully usable on controller when toggle crouch is set to off under accessibility gameplay. Individual graphics now reset properly after making changes and then selecting run auto detect in options. Player experience improvements to stability. We are continuing to investigate and will make further improvements to stability and performance, address multiple reported issues across multiplayer, missions, menus, and engine systems, improve matchmaking and session stability, address performance in multiplayer when there were large numbers of homing projectiles, refine graphics settings and shader handling, improvements made to patch reliability and automation processes. Ocean could occasionally fail to load. And then finally, miscellaneous, joystick input now behaves consistently when lowering dead zones. Huge update. Oh my god, that was so much talking. We're gonna go ahead and read over this one in another video. But yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. Those are your updates, absolutely huge. I'm gonna have to do a lot of testing on my own just to see how much stronger Harlow feels versus how much weaker. Same thing with Amon. And then Vex, she's still pretty powerful even without Bloodletter. That's absolutely fine. And Rafa seems to be in a really good place. All right, thank you everybody so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.